A very warm welcome to the new episode of Ink and Insights. This is your host, Sumit Sarma Samir. In this program, we bring in global thought leaders as well as Nepal's influencers from diverse sectors. Please subscribe to the channel to listen to the world class content. This week, my guest is Adarsha Bazgain, Deputy General Manager of Nabil Bank. We'll talk about global economy and Nepal's banking sector in this episode. Others, welcome to the Ink and Insights with Sumit Sarma Samir.
Thank you very much. Namaste.
Namaste, others. You have been in the banking sector for many years now, and you understand that the global economy at the moment is experiencing dynamic changes. What trends in the global market do you think will most influence Nepal's economy in the coming years?
Thank you very much, Shamir, for inviting me in this platform. I'm really honored because I see a kind of a discussion and debate happens in this podcast, and I'm very honored to be here. Thank you for that. In terms of your question, there are a lot of things. It's a very dynamic world, but the most prominent one, if you ask me personally, would be the de-dollarization. The trend of de-dollarization, in the financial system, which was established about a century ago, after the Second World War, is the increasing pressure on de-dollarization by nations after the Ukraine-Russia war and the sanctions thereon, and the BRICS nation who are now trading all their major G2Z trades in their own currencies, local currencies. At the same time, in the BRICS nation, the biggest two giants which impact us directly is India and China. Our trade is totally dependent on India and China altogether. So how the BRICS nation will play out now after the election of US, whether US will try to derail that, and what are our major economic challenges and where we can benefit from this BRICS. That needs to be really looked into, because we really need to leverage out, because now the BRICS nation have also created alternative to the SWIFT. SWIFT is the main messaging system for banks in the world, for the payments, and now they have created an alternative as well. Also, they are in the process and almost in the final stage of creating alternative to World Bank, IMF also. So, how does this policy shift will change the world is the biggest challenge that I see for now.
Right, right. I mean, I guess you have touched upon one or two points already, but the related question would be, how can we leverage international partnerships or collaborations to strengthen our global presence and benefit the Nepali economy?
Yeah. So the main thing is that we need to partner um, diplomatically to all the big players that is there, but financially I think Nepal can leverage the position of India, uh, as our currency is pegged to Indian rupees. Our all most of the trade, 70 almost 70% of the trade is with India. Our dependency with Indian borders and the transportation are so much, and at the same time, India is emerging as a third biggest power. Now we've seen that one of the first calls made by elected president of US was also to Indian Prime Minister. So on this context, I think we can leverage through China also. But I would, in a priority list, I would say that we have to leverage and with India's position, there are a lot of benefits that we can derive from it. So we really need to think strategically how to leverage the financial position with India.
Right. And what sectors do you think hold the most potential for attracting international investment in Nepal?
Um, Now, there are a lot of talks that we do on this particular subject. There are two things from my mind. Is that one is what is the potential of the country, but for me, more than that, after the potential, we need to see where we can scale, the kind of scale that is required and to put in efforts. That we can clearly see is tourism. Tourism is the space where we really can make a strategy and make an international development, and there and the scale would be there because the whole tourism population in the world can actually come, and we can benefit out of it. At the same time, there are two major areas that we really look into it is our potential on energy and the requirement of energy. Again, come back to scale, because energy is required for every household. So there is a scale, there is a volume. Similarly, on the agriculture, we all require food every day. So there is a volume and there is a scale, and the energy and agri both. We are the net importer. So if you substitute the import also, that is also the priority area for the country to prosper.
Right. And as far as I understand, many global banks are also moving towards sustainable finance. How does your bank, Nabil Bank, align with the global sustainability trends, and what challenges does it face in adopting sustainable practices?
Yeah, so sustainable banking now has become a very important aspect for all the banks in the world, because now a lot of our trading partners around the world in banking would also keenly looking at what are the initiatives that banks have taken in climate or social or governance issues. And that has also become very important for Nepalese banks, especially because we have a huge exposure on hydro powers, and we've seen that last flood also there are almost more than 30 20 30 hydropowers were impacted. Now all these finances are being done by the banks, and this money are of the public money. So we need to, if we do not go in that direction, then actually the portfolio that currently banks are holding are at risk. So there is a necessity for the banks to move into policy level where we can sustain the business for a long run. Having said that, the biggest challenge not only in Nepal and throughout the world is that it is costly. So how to compensate the cost of adopting a sustainable finance, and how the regulators and the government would like to incentivize those. There should be a difference. Right now there is no difference for the institutions having a sustainable practices and not having a sustainable practices. So there needs to be incentivization for the good practices, so that that this can be replicated everywhere and people are encouraged. But that is something that is missing right now.
Right, right. And bank have been playing, a very constructive role in enhancing Nepal's economy. What are the most pressing economic challenges Nepal faces today, and how do you think banking sector play can address them?
Okay, this is a very fundamental and a big issue for me. The biggest, if anyone say what would be the most important thing that is needed right now in Nepal, then I would say hope, because the hope is something that really sparks the country economy and the society at large. So the biggest issue for us right now is mass migration. Because of that, the actual product and services demand in the country has really slowed down. If there is no any data as such, but you can see, people are talking about the industries are running at a 30%, 40% capacity, because there is no demand in the market. So that's the biggest challenge for any business in Nepal, and for banks obviously, because we have to finance these projects. So if there is no demand, then financing it becomes really challenging for banks. So I would say that the policymaker really need to look into it, and the Banker Association of Nepal need to sit with the central bank and say where we how we can actually do it, how we can invest more, and there would be a economic activity more, so that we can retain our youths in the country. And right now also, Sumit, because you're not in the banking sector, so just to clarify my point is that right now also central bank has mandated all the banks to invest 45% of their portfolio into productive sector. Now they have defined this much of percentage into energy, this much of percentage into SME, this much of percentage in agri. So they have defined it. So altogether, if you put it all together, it is about 45% of the portfolio is going to a sector where central bank has said that you have to do it for the economy. But my question would be that then is the impact happening there? Whether the policymaker need to look into it critically and saying that even though we have mandated them 45% of the lending, but is it actually helping the economy? We need to change that policy, or we need to divert it. That is something that is required.
Right. So it's very interesting data that you gave me, others. I mean, 45% of portfolio is invested on, productive sectors. So despite that, as you rightly pointed out, is it impacting economy or not? Then the answer would be perhaps no.
Yeah.
In that context, where are the things going wrong?
Financing is one part. Financing is one part of the game. When we finance it, then there are a lot of things comes out, how the institutions is run, what is the governance level, what is the board structure, what are the policies and framework, who are the regulators, are the regulators competent enough, does they have a good policies, do they have a monitoring and inspection mechanism and infrastructure so that they can follow up on this. So right now what is happening is that, though because of the access to finance, there are projects and businesses that are being established, but the regulatory bodies who need to monitor them, provide a policy support, that is very very incapable condition in government agencies. Fortunately Central Bank of Nepal is a very good authority. We just wish that like Central Bank of Nepal, if all the government bodies and the regulatory bodies would be there, then the issue would have been, now we're talking about, I think, on the access to finance. Now if you see like this cooperatives issue right now, the whole country is in chaos, and there are a lot of revolution going on because of the cooperatives. So for the saving and lending cooperatives, they have been providing finance, access to finance, but because the regulator who governs these cooperative institutions were not capable enough, today's situation has come. There are a lot of funding has gone to a wrong hand, wrong place, everywhere. So I think I would say that the regulatory capacity we need to really enhance.
Right, right. Others, one of the other issues, as a layman, I could feel that the inflation is really hitting us hard, and with inflation impacting economies worldwide, how can we respond to inflationary pressures?
Now, inflation, unfortunately, because we are a net importer, we do not manufacture anything. So it's a global market that determines the commodities prices. And that's a major challenge right now. We have seen because of inflation, Trump won the election. That's a
One
very
of the
important.
one of the crack many one of the reasons, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
One major reason is that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
for us, the only thing that we can think about is that I said energy and agriculture, because energy is something that we produce and we can produce, and there is a market now within India and Bangladesh. Now we have tied up. So how to implement that, though that is in paper. Now how to implement that would be should be a priority. And at the same time, agriculture, because we import a lot of foods, and we've seen that because of the global geopolitics, there are supply chain disruptions, and people were having a difficulty, and the prices were not fluctuating very highly. So how to diversify that, different sources, as I already told, our cooperation with India and China and other countries, on the agriculture side, is also very important for us to sustain, because the global dynamism changes every now and then.
As you understand that Nepal has a young demographic, but youth unemployment remains high. Is there any way that banks can support economic policies or initiatives to create job opportunities for young Nepalis?
Yeah, so fortunately, Sumit, because of the one initiative by the government back then, to privatize the banks and open the license, banks opened up, and then now the private sector banking itself is 40 years now. Nabil being the number one bank. Uh, you can see how many positive things that, because of one that decision liberalization of banks happened, is that a lot of talents got a job in the banks. These banks are the primary reason who financed the all the hydropower, and now Nepal is self-sufficient on energy. No, no. So Nepal has, banks have supported the cement industry, iron industry, all these industrialization and the employ and thus the employment therefore. So obviously there are a lot of things that banks can do. The only thing is that now the policymakers, bankers, central bankers need to sit down and understand, though there is a productive sector guideline, but it is not happening. So where are the bottlenecks? So how to channelize it? What policy we need to change, so that there will be economic activity. And once economic activity is there, we don't need to tell people to stay here. They will obviously, they know which side of the bread they have a butter. They know that.
Right. One of the other issues, I think, the remittances form a significant portion of Nepal's GDP. What's your perspective on remittance, and how can we make the best use of it?
Now, uh, for a country like Nepal right now, that's a remittance, I would say, is the backbone, and we cannot ignore it. And neither I would say that we should immediately look into reducing it. But at the same time, because of the dependency on remittances, the migration is happening, and that is impacting the local economy very harshly. So there are, we need to create more jobs. And then on the remittance side also, what we government could have done would be that, they should have given the instruments, this investment opportunities. Have you seen, sometime back, Nepal Stock Exchange turnover, on daily turnover, reached 30 billion rupees in a day.
Sure. Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
because there, this investor around the world saw the value, and the Nepalese diaspora sitting outside Nepal send in much of money to buy in shares in stock market, and that's how the volume is 30 million. So that's just one instrument that government has said, but we have so much fixed. There is so much restrictions in Nepal. There are a lot of products. I'll tell you that you'll be amazed to know that even after 40 years of banking, private banking, Nabil Bank is there. Central bank has not allowed a derivative instrument, risky instruments, lot of products that are not being explored in. Even banks are not investing, because banks have so much of a analysis capacity in terms of risks. But even though they are not allowed, so this is just one primary example. There are a lot of things that government can do and open up the market, like I'll tell you, the capital market. No, I talked about the equity market right now, the 30 billion rupees. On the debt market, there are trillions and trillions of government treasury bills, bonds being issued, banks debentures being issued, private debentures are being issued. But none of them none of them trades in a stock market, secondary market, because there are issues like tax issues, broker commission, and their infrastructure level, anything. Can you imagine the amount of money market activity happens is the if the debt capital market opens up.
Absolutely. It's
Trillions,
huge.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge market. Now that will
Yeah.
create the in environment, activity, instruments, and that's how people's money, the remittance money, can be used in a productive sector. We can't pull all the remittance, household remittance, put it in a fund, and government do one projects. No, that doesn't happen that way. You just have to create projects and come out with the shares and everything, papers, bonds, and then people who has saved their money from the remittance will invest there, and that's how the economic activity grows. So I think we need a lot of instruments to channelize the remittance so that the economic development happens and the projects happens.
Right, right. And why is this not happening? I mean, in terms of, as you just suggested, that this could be one of the other options that we could look into. There could be multiple of other things that we could do. Despite knowing all this and despite good people at the places, things are not happening, right? Others, what do you see the crux of the problem? Where does this, why don't we work?
No, I may be wrong, Smith, partially, but what I think is the biggest problem for us is that a political appointment on the regulatory bodies. Now that is not being done in who are potential, who are actually expert, who have proven their track record, who on the basis of merits. If regulatory bodies are being put in a place, then they know where are the policy hindrances, how international market operates. They have a knowledge, they have the experience, they have seen the things, and so they can move away. For our biggest issue is that because of the political landscape in the country, all these political authorities who are very important authorities are being appointed on a political basis, not on a merit basis, and that's how things people are not understanding it. What is it people are not understanding it. There were, I attended a lot of conference recently on green bond, and very highly reputed world renowned institutions were involved on those conferences, but they were surprised when I raised this issue that, well, while we are talking about issuance of bond, and bond is a debt structure, debt instrument, and there are a lot of issuance it will happen, but because there is no secondary market, who would want to invest? Once you have to invest, you have to hold it till maturity. You can't trade off. When you require, you can't sell it off. So that's the first factor any investor would see, is how can I exit, and that exit is blocked. So and people were really, regulators, even the Sebon regulator was so surprised, and then said that thank you very much for bringing this up, because nobody is talking about it. Main issue is that investor would like to always exit when he wants, and that exit option should be given.
Yeah, I can imagine the atmosphere and the pressure that you guys work in. And the banking industry, the one of the other issue I think is also facing the banking industry itself, numerous risks. These days, from cybersecurity threats to economic downturns. How should we ensure resilience in these uncertain times? Others.
um, Now this is a very complex question, because there is no fixed answer to it. Somebody was telling me, like, there are two things, that there are there should be a historical data to predict what could happen, and there should be some kind of insurance. If you see on a climate change, same thing is that there is no empirical old data you can run and predict the future, because the climate change can happen very aggressively without any precedence of so. Similarly, cyber security is the same thing. Cyber security is same thing. There is no past data. Always the new event are so big and large that you can never get 100% prepared for it. Only thing I would say is that on this, there is the two things that we can really do is aware and be alert, because every day new scam, every day new type of thing, never heard of thing are happening. So only thing
Right.
you can do is that you have to be aware what is happening every day,
True,
and then
true.
you have to stay alert. It doesn't happen to me.
The other day I was listening to one of the world-renowned management guru these days, Seth Garden. The only thing he advised is that the best thing we can do in present time is to try and make sense of the present world order, what's happening in and around. That's what you quoted, which kind of resonated to what he was saying. Let me ask you a couple of questions in relation to Nabil Bank. What role is Nabil Bank playing in green financing? You touched upon a bit earlier. And how does the bank incentivize businesses in Nepal to adopt environmentally friendly practices?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I was the fortunate one to establish the sustainable development wing under Nabil Bank. And the idea first was that, when we started it, is that first we need to accept that we are doing something wrong. Accepting, once you accept it, then you can always correct it. So what we did was we accepted it. We calculated our emission, carbon emission on two sector, infrastructure and airlines, and we calculated how much emission we have done. And at the same time we also calculated how much we have saved the emission in terms of solar financing, hydro financing, where we have saved. So, and we declared that there is a organization called PCAP, carbon accounting for finance. We are member of that, and then we announced in our annual report how much emission we have done and what are the things that we're going to do to correct it. So we've changed our credit policy also, where we have mentioned that any projects that saves the environment or the society at large would be incentivized. They will be given a fine refined rate. There will be criteria where there are certain deferrals are given. So that at the policy level we have done that. Apart from that, we've come out with the greenhouse, where we will give some discounted rate on housing project which meets the criteria of greenhouse. And most of them are in coordination with the Kathmandu metropolitan guideline as well. And we've done a lot of financial literacy programs. We are in the process of issuing a green bond. We have done a rainwater harvesting in our all buildings, most of the buildings. So we are moving into that direction. But it's Sumit, looking at the international landscape, we are very very at early stage. So that's why one of our role as a leading bank is also towards the policy advisory. So we have requested central bank that they should have a board level committee on sustainable finance. Because right now there are only two board level committees. One is audit committee, one is risk management committee. Oh, there are HR committee as well, and AML committee. So there are four committees mandated by central bank for every banks. We are requesting them to put up another committee on a sustainable finance. And now you see that we are ourselves going and saying that to central bank that you should control us. You should have that mechanism in place so that we go to sustainable finance. So these are the things that we are doing. Slowly, market is also, other banks are also following up. So I hope that this pace will grow, and then it has to go very fast because of our landscape, geographical location.
Yeah, so that's a wonderful thing to know. As a deputy general manager yourself, others, what's your vision for the future of banking in Nepal over the next decade, and how does Nabil Bank plan to lead in shaping this future?
So, I mean, earlier also I touched about the thing that it's been private sector banking of 40 years. If we see the Nepal Bank, then it was more than 70 years. Now, with that, also right now, it's so unfortunate to tell you that we do not have a benchmark yield curve to determine the interest rate in the country. All the banks that banks sit once in a month, they called asset liability committee. They will determine what is the liquidity position in the country, their bank, what is the position, what is the outlook, what is the credit demand like, and they analyze it and do a calculation for the interest rate for that month. Now, in any developed market, what happens is that I already told you about the debt market. So there will be a debt market. So government treasury bill of 3 months, 9 months, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, different tenors are there. They are listed in a stock exchange, secondary market. Now, if they start trading every day, like equity trades right now, you can see what price Nabil Bank share is trading right now. After 2 minutes, at what price? After 3 minutes, what price? And what is the actual price? So similarly, if debt instruments like 3 months to 10 years, whatever listed, would be started trading every day, every second, then that will give a yield curve. What would be the ideal interest rate for 3 months and what would be for the 10 years? That will be a benchmark yield, and then the banks can price whether to discount on that curve or to put a premium on that curve. They can decide on that and finance it like project financing. Why Nepal? Why not much local project financing happening in Nepal? Because you don't know what price you want to give a loan for a 5-year project and 10-year project or 3-year project or 2-year project. There is no benchmark. Now, if that start trading, then there will be a benchmark for the interest rate, and we have to do that. Right now, on the foreign currency market, you see, in the foreign currency market, we have our in Nepalese rupees is pegged to Indian rupees, and it trades. But the interesting part is that in any country, in a developed country, when you go and ask for dealers in the bank what would be your USD rate, then he will give you two price. That two price means at what price he would want to buy dollar. Another price is at what price you want to sell the dollar. That is called two-way pricing, two-way quote. Now that is completely absent in Nepal. One bank calls another bank and says that I want to buy a dollar. He would say I don't have dollar, or you would say no, I will only buy, I will not sell. So what kind of a financial system after 40 years of private banking and 70 years of people banking. So we are very much lagging in that space. So on the capital market space and the foreign currency market, because we're talking about a lot of investment and international investment. If they come, then they would be carrying a currency risk of a devaluation, fluctuation. They would be carrying it. So we need to provide a hedging solution to them, which is called a forward swap derivatives, so that they can manage their fluctuation risks. Now, on the spot market, if you are not getting a two-way quote, then how can you imagine a derivative or a swap market in this market? And until that swap market is not there, then the international investor would be reluctant to come to Nepal, because they will be carrying a huge foreign currency risks on their books. So we have to go into that direction, and that will open up the whole financial system, and all the economy will be very vibrant if we go into that direction.
Right, right. Others, my last question for the episode today is, as Nabil Bank is celebrating its 40th anniversary, what message would you like to convey to your customers, employees, and stakeholders?
Thank you very much for all. Thank you very much. You all have supported. Customers have supported. They have loved Nabil Bank. They have trusted us, and we really value their trust. We will never ever compromise on their trust, and we will be always leading the bank country with new products, new developments, policy, lobbying, as well as a thought leadership for the banking sector. At the same time, I would like to thank all the Nabil Bank staffs in the 40th anniversary. You guys have done a really good job and make us really proud, because we are the number one bank right now. And because of all your hard work, we have reached here. And I'm sure that there are challenging times, but from your support and your hard work, will come out of it. Thank you very much.
On that note, others, it was great talking with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Samir. It was an honor to be here, and I really enjoyed the conversation.
Same here, others. Good luck.
Thank you.